Public Renaissance, Urban Cultures of Public Space Between Early Modern Europe and the Present is a project funded by the Humanities and European Research Area, involving colleagues from universities in Italy, Germany, the Netherlands and Spain, as well as the UK. We're looking at 5 cities as our primary case studies, but expanding outwards to consider the public spaces that are at the heart of many of our European cities today, to show how these were shaped in the past, during a period roughly from 1400 to 1650, by the everyday actions of individuals. We have a strong focus on material culture, the built environment, but also objects in museum collections with which we are collaborating with each of our project teams. We will raise attention for a range of objects, from city maps to shop signs, from cheap print to street furniture, the material culture of public space. We're using mapping in our work to give a sense of the physical place to our findings, soon to be revealed in an interactive project website. We'll also be launching a series of apps later this year, so that visitors experience our findings through historically researched, character-led walks. The app and project website are titled Hidden Cities, to underline the overlooked histories we will reveal for Exeter, Valencia, Hamburg, Deventer and Trento.
Valencia, capital of the kingdom of the same name in the Crown of Aragon, was in the 15th century the largest and most dynamic Mediterranean city of the Iberian Peninsula, with strong cultural ties with Italy, a legacy still visible in the architecture today. Integration of the kingdom into the international ambitions of Emperor Charles V was followed between 1519 and 1521 by the Germania, an urban revolt with popular, religious and political components, which brought about an assertive occupation of public space.
Our research will map the uses of urban public space during this upheaval and trace their continuity or discontinuity into the following centuries. The emphasis will be, in particular, on the interplay and tension between subversive elements and contents in street singing, chapbook selling, public attendance to executions, urban violence, and the efforts of ecclesiastic and political authorities to control and moralize these activities through prohibitions, regulations, and preaching.
The University of Groningen research team has selected the city of Deventer as main object of study. Located in the eastern part of the Netherlands, Deventer was during the late Middle Ages a prominent member of the Hanseatic League, a confederation of merchant guilds and market towns in northwest and central Europe. Most importantly, Deventer was, and still, famous as City of Books. Already known for the production of manuscripts, especially within the framework of a religious movement known as Devotio Moderna, Deventer became, in the second half of the 15th century, one of the main European printing towns, especially renowned for the production of Latin school books. This is not by mere chance, as the Deventer Latin School attracted students from all over the Netherlands and Germany. The most famous among them is Erasmus of Rotterdam. The city of Deventer is approaching our research as a complex place of knowledge, in which oral, visual and written information and contents are produced and exchanged in an ongoing process of transformation and discussion. Focusing on specific public and semi-public spaces and places of knowledge, the project strives to study Deventer as a hub for the transmission and exchange of information and text. Research topics range from dissemination of religious ideals, located in many religious institutions and churches, to the rediscovery of Greek, studied at the Deventer Latin School, and to the availability of books, as described in the first known inventory of a Dutch bookshop.
Exeter, in the early modern period, was the 5th largest city in England, described by the preacher John Bond as the centre, heart and head of the West, owing its wealth primarily to the wool trade. The city's strength lay in its access to both inland markets and to the sea. Many commodities came from London via the coastal trade, as well as direct trade with the continent, enabled by a new canal bringing goods direct to the city's quayside. Other goods were traded at the weekly markets and seasonal fairs, then transported overland. There are plenty of inns in the city where merchants and producers buying and selling could stay overnight. These were the city's public spaces. My own research interests focus on the built fabric of cities and how they were inhabited and represented. John Hooker's new printed plan of Exeter, the first of its kind, proudly portrays it as an organised, ideal city. Its walls, gates, Guildhall and cathedral clearly depicted. It offers a view of the Elizabethan cityscape as a manifestation of the protection, control and order that enabled inhabitants to go about their business.
Hamburg was a free and imperial city of the Holy Roman Empire of the German nation. In our project, we focus on public spaces of this rather big city that was considered by contemporaries of mid-late 17th century as the most greatly flourishing German city. Hamburg was a city of about 75,000 inhabitants and relatively rich due to important and established trade and postal connections. Among other things, the city was famous for its news and book production, which is indicated in terms like book city, city of pamphlets, or news metropolis. In our research, we will investigate the spatial impact of the local printing and news industry for the flows of information and news traveling in various public settings of the city. By connecting the local publishing culture and their goods, that's mainly newspapers, broadsheets, pamphlets, by connecting them to the materiality and sociality of the urban living spaces, we aim to highlight the sensory perceptions of those living in the city and consuming media in the city. We try to shed light on the material city and its many different public spaces by focusing on media flows and their circulation through the cities, spaces, and places.
Trento was a border city between the Holy Roman Empire and the Italian lands. It was an Italian city, but with a strong and significant German influence in terms of population, religion, culture, language, and urban fabric. It was a city of transit and mobility for travelers between north and south of the Alps, with many public houses, inns and taverns, mostly run by the local German community, and very often by female innkeepers. And the architectural and material remains of some of these taverns are still visible today. With our research, we will investigate the spatial dynamics and cultural interaction taking place around these and other public buildings, showing as they serve not just as sites of sociability or hospitality, but also as political spaces. And by focusing on the everyday life and the agency of urban spaces, such as street corners, squares, and taverns, we aim to offer a new and possibly less static interpretation of the social and cultural history of the city of the council.